Hey ladies and gentlemen, Stephen here from Redolessence and welcome back to another video. This is it, my last video of the year 2020. I just want to take the time to wish everybody a happy new year. I'm really hoping and I have my fingers crossed and I'm sure we're all praying that 2021 is a better year than 2020. Depending on when I decide to upload this video, it might already be 2021 in some regions of the world. But in any case, in today's video, I'm going to be going over 10 fragrances that for one reason or another will remind me of the year 2020. So make sure to stay tuned. Now, before I begin this list and I tell you about the 10 fragrances that I have in my collection that will remind me of the year 2020, and I go over the reasons why and why they're so sentimental to me, I do want to mention that if you are a fan of fragrance-related content, if you like fragrance reviews here on YouTube or top 10 lists just like this, giveaways, unboxings, special guests, interviews, pretty much anything having to do with fragrances, please do consider supporting this channel by subscribing to it. All you have to do is click on that red button in the corner. And of course, while you're at it, please be sure to enable all notifications by clicking on the bell icon. This way, whenever I do upload these videos, they will get delivered straight to your feed. You never need to worry about missing any of my future uploads. So I know 2020 has been a difficult year for so many of us. Some of us have lost loved ones. Some of us have had to change the way that we work, our 9-to-5s. I know myself as a teacher, there's been a lot of remote learning, and so I've had to teach from home, which has been a challenge in and of itself, but I'm not going to go down that route. But here are fragrances, because we do this all the time, right? We tend to associate our experiences with certain fragrances and vice versa, and even when we revisit these fragrances down the line, just one whiff of them and we're already reminded of what we were going through in that month or in that year or whatever, and I just have a very strong feeling and conviction that when I do smell these fragrances in 2030 or 2040 or whenever, they will remind me of 2020 for one reason or another. Now, before I dive into this list, I also want to mention that if you are interested in sampling or purchasing any of these fragrances, in case the way that I'm describing them to you appeals to your fancy, you may do so at scentsplit.com. This video is being shot in collaboration with scentsplit.com. All of the information is going to be down below. They are a decanting website, very trusted. I've been using them for years, and so all of the fragrances except for one, I believe, are on the website. So if you do want to get a sample of anything, just follow the links down below, which are not affiliate links, by the way. So let's go ahead and get started. I want to start off with the number 10 fragrance, and this one by the company Navitus Parfums is called Absolutio. Now, this is a fragrance that I directly worked on. I'm not the perfumer, of course. The perfumer for this is Bertrand Duchaufour, master perfumer, has made some of the best fragrances in the world. And I actually had a chance to visit him in February in Paris, France, because I am the creative director of this particular line from the company. And I remember just being awestruck, and I remember looking at him and thinking, wow, that's my favorite perfumer, and I've been wearing his creations for so many years. And he actually, shared aspects of the formula with me, and he had a discussion with me which was very rich in nature, and I got to learn a lot about him and his background and the way that he does things. And at the end of the day, I really got a chance to enjoy Paris, France. That was my first time ever being to France, and so it was just an amazing experience. And all of this happened before the lockdown, of course. So this happened in February. I think it was second or third week of February 2020, but it was amazing. I'm really happy that I had the opportunity to meet one of my favorite perfumers and interview him on my channel. I'm going to leave a card up here if you're interested in checking that out, where he actually speaks about many of the fragrances that he's composed for the brand. So I thank him for his time and for his willingness to be on the Redolessence channel. The next fragrance that will remind me of 2020 is another fragrance that I acquired earlier on in this year. I believe it was either in February or March. My wife and I love to go to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and when we do, of course, we love going to Perfumology, which is the best perfume store that you're going to find in PA. And I ended up purchasing this one because even though it didn't come out in 2020, his newest creation from the brand is Phthalo Blue. This one I think came out in 2019, but I've always wanted to get it. So when I went to Philadelphia, I said, you know what, I'm going to buy this one. It seems like it's appropriate for all year round, but I think it would work really well when it's a little bit warmer outside. And so this one is called L'air des Alpes Suisses by Tower Perfumes. And every time I smell this one, it reminds me of my visits to Pennsylvania, Philadelphia specifically, because Perfumology is located in the historical district. And so if you are ever in that area, definitely check them out. Let them know that Steven sent you. Near Guy is an amazing person and a personal friend of mine. The next fragrance, which was actually one of the more anticipated releases, for me at least, when I saw the presentation and I read up about the specific fragrance and I took a look at the note breakdown, I said, this sounds divine. And I knew that I had to buy it in anticipation of the summertime. And this one by Roja Parfum is called Oceania. This has a lot of citrus notes in here. It has a lot of clean white florals. You have the jasmine. You have this nuance of gardenia. It's smooth, it's subtle, but it lasts such a long time. And it's such an incredibly unique, fresh fragrance. This is probably the best fragrance that I acquired this year for the summertime, right next to Celebration by Royal Crown, which did not come out in 2020. And this list is not necessarily about fragrances that came out in 2020, just fragrances that I will forever associate with 2020 for one reason or another, but incredible fragrance, especially if you are a fan of some of the fresher iterations from the brand. Then we have another one by Roja Parfum, and I'll explain this one. So this one is Diagolev by Roja Parfum. And of course, I did a collaboration with a good friend of mine. I'm gonna leave a card to it up here, where we reviewed Diagolev in a lot of detail. It's such a sophisticated fragrance, heavy on the oak moss. It has this classic old world feel to it. Very long lasting, very high quality ingredients as well. The reason why I'm going to be reminded of this one so much, aside from the fact that I was wearing it so often this year, is the fact that earlier on in the year, I would say around April or May, I actually did a huge haul. It was like 40 or 50 bottles that I purchased from FragranceNet and Fragrance X. And it was all fragrances from like 1950 to like 1980, because I wanted to familiarize myself with a lot of these classics that were released in decades prior. And so when I smelled this one, the quality of it just reminded me of what I was searching for as I was smelling those other fragrances. And this one is so earthy, so natural. The oak moss, that touch of an animalic thing going on in the base. Really an incredible fragrance by the company Roja Parfum, Diagolev. The next one I think needs no introduction. This one by the company Parfum de Marly is called, what is this called? It's called Greenlee. So it was known as another name, and there was a big to-do and quite a hiccup, but they did change their name for conflict of interest reasons, and now we have Greenlee. This is an incredible fragrance, very bright, fresh. You have that green apple in there. It's citrusy. It has a lot of these synthetic molecules that create this long-lasting freshness in the base. Really a stunning fragrance from the brand. Greenlee is incredible, and one of the fragrances that I wore a lot of in the summertime, and you can probably tell. Now, of course, I think I have Pegasus Exclusive behind me here too. This one was released a little bit later on in the year, but because of the nature of the renaming and other aspects of this fragrance, I think this one is going to be a little bit more memorable for me as far as 2020 is concerned. Now, the next fragrance on this list did not come out in 2020. It actually came out in 1985. It's been around for a very, very long time. And the reason why this fragrance is going to be ingrained in my memory for the year 2020 is because my daughter had her birthday, her third birthday, over the summer. And we had to find new and clever ways to celebrate her birthday, because normally we would rent out like a small venue, just something very small, intimate. We would invite, immediate family members and close friends. And this year, because of, the pandemic, we weren't able to do that. And so we had to be creative. And so we set up a nice sort of display, if you will, on the front yard, and we erected a few structures, and we invited a lot of our closest friends and family members, and our grandparents couldn't visit, or her grandparents I should say, couldn't visit. So it was a really difficult year, not having that closeness that we became so comfortable to having, and we took for granted in many cases. But this one is Green Irish Tweed by Creed. And the reason I went on this sort of diatribe, if you will, is because on that day, celebrating my daughter's birthday, I thought to myself, what fragrance would remind me of being like the ideal father or the ideal dad. And Green Irish Tweed just has a certain level of class, refinement, and sophistication to it. And so I went with GIT. Next, we have a fragrance that I actually mentioned in one of my lists, which is a list that I dedicated to fragrances that I was excited to acquire in 2020. And this one by BDK Parfum is called Citrus Riviera. And I said, I really want to get this fragrance. I really want to get it. And when it came out, I got it. And I've been loving it ever since. It has this subtle sweetness in the base, this explosion of citrus in the opening. It has a clean, almost green quality about it. Very bright, very effervescent. Definitely one of the best summer releases to come out from a niche brand this year. And of course, I own many other fragrances from the brand, from Rouge Smoking to Wood Jasmine to Gris Chanel to many. And I personally love most of the ones that I've tried from the brand. It's an incredible brand. Even had the opportunity to interview David Benedek, who is the creative director and founder of the company. I'm going to leave that card up here if you're interested in learning a little bit more about the company in detail. But that will be something that I will remember in the year 2020 as well. Me meeting David Benedek as well as many other creative directors and perfumers. The next fragrance is the only designer on this list. I'm sorry. If you would like to see me make a similar video for only designer fragrances, please let me know and I would be more than happy to do so. But this one is one of the better releases of this year. I think probably my favorite release of this year will either be Beau de Jour by Tom Ford or Black Orchid Parfum by Tom Ford. But this one really caught me off guard because I like this so much in comparison to the Eau de Toilette, which I didn't really care for. And this one by Dolce Gabbana is called K Eau de Parfum. It's darker, it's deeper, it's more woodsy, spicy, resinous. It almost has this boozy quality, kind of like a designer version of Killian Straight to Heaven, if you will, with those oriental facets in the base, the patchouli, the spices, like I mentioned. Incredible, incredible fragrance, and definitely one that I also wore a lot of in the year 2020 as the year started to wind down, if you will, because I don't think it's generally too safe to wear it in the summertime, especially with all the woods and spices. It could be a little bit too overbearing. And then, of course, the second to last fragrance is by Tom Ford, and it's called Bitter Peach. Of course, Bitter Peach is going to be the fragrance of 2020 in the case that it was so hyped and it received so much chatter. And for me personally, I love the fragrance. I think it's a great fragrance. I know a lot of people got their hands on it way before it was scheduled to be released, thus resulting in a lot of posts getting taken down, but I'm not going to get into that. But it is an awesome fragrance, and of course, it almost follows this trend where Tom Ford salaciously names his fragrances after certain innuendos. Again, I'm not going to get into it. You guys know the deal with Effing Fabulous and Lost Cherry, and so on and so forth. But Bitter Peach is awesome, and I'm certainly looking forward to upcoming fragrances from the brand, as I'm sure they're going to be really, really good. And the last fragrance that I want to speak about here is one that I blind bought the second it came out, and I said to myself, this has to be good, given the reputation of the brand and my affinity for the perfumer's work and just how many of the fragrances from this brand I happen to own. I think I purchased all of them except for two. And this one, when I saw the ad copy for it and the narrative and the note breakdown, I said, this is going to be fantastic. And this one is not fantastic, it's Fantomas. Yeah, I know, dad joke, I'm sorry. But Fantomas is an incredible fragrance by the company Nosomoto. So happy that I purchased this. Don't blind buy. This could have not have been, a very successful blind buy. In my case, it was. But this one has this smoky, fruity, sort of passion fruit guava thing going on in the opening, an earthy touch in the base. Somebody on Fragrantica, and I corroborate this, they said it kind of reminds them of the smoke or the sensation that you feel when you inhale the smoke from like a fog machine. And I couldn't agree more. Really interesting, very unique, and definitely something that I expect from Alessandro Gottieri's work, because I know that he is such a unique perfumer. Or I should say his creations are unique. I've never met him in person, so I can't comment on his personality or anything like that. But here we have 10 fragrances that will forever remind me of 2020. Obviously, there have been a lot of fragrances released this year, everything from 1 Million Parfums by Paco Rabanne to a lot of Michael Malul fragrances that I'm looking at in the corner of the room here that I absolutely love, Citizen Jack Absolute. And then we also have some other discoveries, Royal Crown, Killian Angel Share has been incredible this year. But these are fragrances that have some sort of a sentimental value for me. And I'm also curious to know, what are some fragrances that you're going to think of 2020 when you smell them down the line? Leave a comment down below and let me know what associations or fragrant associations are you going to make with the year 2020. I'm always interested in getting your thoughts and your feedback. So thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. Happy New Year once again to everybody out there. I hope that 2021 is much safer, much more prosperous for you, and I hope that it's not filled with any surprises the way that 2020 was, you know, Kobe Bryant and Alex Trebek, and I'm not going to get into it, but thank you all so much for watching. I love you guys. If you are new to this channel and you took something of value from this video, please do consider supporting this channel by subscribing to it. All you have to do is click on that red button in the corner. And again, make sure to enable notifications by clicking on the bell. Thanks again for watching. I love you all. We'll see you next time. Bye. Happy New Year.